Okay, we're going to take a little tour of the iPad version of Photos interface. So what I'm going to do is, from the welcome screen here, I'm going to open up a project and then open up a document. Now before we do anything else, I want to bring your attention to this handy little button down here, the question mark. Anytime you press and hold on the question mark, you'll get tooltips to tell you where everything is on the interface. So it's a great way to quickly find a particular tool, studio, or option. So then let's begin. Up here on the top toolbar we have the Home button, and that simply returns you to the welcome screen and also autosaves your document. So diving back in, we then have the Document menu. And this contains various document-based options like resizing, color conversion, exporting, printing, and various helper tools such as snapping, guides, and grid. Next up, we have the Command menu. Now this changes based on which persona you're currently in, and we'll get to personas in a minute. So by default, we're in the photo persona, and our options here consist of various layer commands like merging, rasterizing, duplicating, and we also have access to live projections and grouping of layers. Now we come to the personas. So similar to the desktop version, think of personas as different workspaces depending on what you want to achieve. So what we're in at the moment is the photo persona, and it contains the majority of editing tools you're likely to use for day-to-day image and photo editing. Now this is the selections persona, and that contains all kinds of selection-based tools, and these will all help to make accurate selections for further editing. Also note that the options on the command menu have now changed because we're in a different persona. Next is the liquify persona. Now this gives us an entire workspace for performing mesh-based distortions. The available tools mean this is suitable for all kinds of image work, from retouching to landscapes. Now moving on, we have the develop persona. Now this is the persona that we enter into by default when opening RAW files, but we can also access it at any point, even if we're not working with raw imagery. The reason you might want to do this is that it provides a nice, easy and unified way of making several adjustments to your image, and it also has various corrections like lens distortion, defringing, chromatic aberration reduction, and so on. Finally then, we have the tone mapping persona. Now, tone mapping is mainly associated with HDR imagery as a means of compressing and mapping out of range tones to be in range. But we can also use it for any type of imagery because it allows us to add and remove tone compression and local contrast, which can produce quite a distinct look. So then, if I just tap cancel to come out of the tone mapping persona, on the left hand side here we have various tools at our disposal. Again, if I press and hold the helper button here, we can quickly get an idea of what tools are provided. Now some of these entries are categories and contain multiple tools, so to expose these we simply tap once to select the tool and then tap again to expose the category. Again, you'll find these tools change depending on which persona you're in. So for example, in the selections persona, we have a set of different selection-based tools. Okay then, on the right-hand side we have the studios. Now they're all here to aid the image editing process, and we can simply tap an icon to expose its studio. So for example, this is the Layers Studio. Here we have the Color Studio, where you can sample, pick and control active colors. Then we have the Brushes Studio, where you can choose, change and import brushes. Then we have the Adjustment Studio, where you can pick from a wide variety of adjustment layers. For many, these will be used quite frequently during your image editing. Next we have the Filters Studio, so similar to adjustments where you can choose from a variety of filters to achieve certain effects. Think blurring, sharpening, corrections, distortions and so on. Then we have the Layer Effects Studio, where you can apply non-destructive layer effects like shadowing and outlining to layers. Now, you typically use these on text and vector objects, but there's nothing stopping you using them on pixel layers as well. So next, here is the Text Studio, where you can adjust font formatting, and that's typically when you're using the Art, Text and Frame Text tools here. Next, the Camera Studio displays metadata and a histogram. Now, it seems a little quiet at first, but if we tap the icon up here, you'll see we can access not just histogram options, but we can also display various scopes, for example, a vector scope or an intensity waveform. Next, we have the Channels Studio, and that lets us manipulate both the overall document's composite channels listed here and also individual layer channels. Next up, the Transform Studio gives us various transform and anchoring options when manipulating layers. And the Navigator Studio gives us quick access to absolute zoom levels. Very useful if you're wanting to see your image at exactly 100, 200%, or you're just looking to fit to screen. And finally, there's not a lot to see here at the moment because we haven't performed any operations, but this is the History Studio. Now, Photo saves an undo history with every document, and here you'll find you can scrub backwards and forwards between all the edits you've performed. And also, finally, if the interface is crowding your style, you can just tap this button at the top right and everything will shift out of view to give you full access to the entire canvas. So there we go, that was a quick look at Photo's interface. For a more in-depth look, please do cast your eyes over the other video tutorials, as they will hone in on particular tools, personas and studios, and will help give you a better understanding of how they work. Thank you for watching.